The following is a conversation. It has the features of any conversation, such as imperfectly expressed thoughts, ill-considered opinions, and the notions of several sleep-deprived brains. Try not to get your stethoscope in a twist about it.
Take a look at this. And listeners, you might want to watch our YouTube for this, but Jeff, describe to me what you see.
There is a rat, quite obviously a white rat, with something growing out of it or growing into
sure
it.
It's not a mouse?
Positive.
I thought a mouse too, but it's got a naked tail.
It's got a naked tail.
Oh, do mice not have naked
I didn't realize.
Mice don't have a naked
Although
tail.
its head shape does look more mouse than rat.
It's really cute.
Yeah, but
It's
also
a mat.
like thing that is coming out of it is like a cross between like a central nervous system and an umbilical cord.
Yeah.
And that's a weird combination.
I'm close enough
with
to
a
read.
tumor?
Can you read the text from there? Because I'm close enough to read the text.
I see the word fat.
I think I see
that actually says rat,
tubercle.
actually. Oh, no, it is a rat.
That's one of the
Hey.
only correct words on this.
Yeah.
This was published in an academic journal, Frontiers, which
Well, that's a cell membrane.
I was
going
going to say, I've honestly seen worse.
I've seen
frankly.
Jackstat.
Like,
Jackfruit, yes.
yeah, with these like Jackstat stuff, with this cell like regulation stuff, I have seen more complicated. Dear God.
Pretty sure
You know what
that
this
was
looks
in
like?
one
This
of
looks
our
like the
lectures
meme of
today.
like the brains, like you know the one with like the translucent
yeah,
heads and the brains that keeps getting more complicated.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what that looks like.
This was published in an academic journal called Frontiers, which touted the crowdsourcing dynamic of open science for alerting it to the problem here, which is that these are all AI-generated images that made it into their publication.
Yeah,
I'm going to be honest, that one, like I would have to look at the
That
details
mouse one should not have made it in.
because that one looks like something that could be. What's the purpose of the peer review?
Well, the peer review is theoretically to, catch things like that, but it's just like there's sometimes I have noticed where, and I wonder if this might be the case, I've even noticed a trend of like complicated images. Sometimes your reviewer will just be like, I'm sure it's fine, whatever. Like, and not to mention reviewers are kind of inherently biased in terms of like they tend to focus on what their specialty is. Like I had this with my fellowship grant. But
I have a ton of experience at this point, like looking at AI images because it's something that I find very fascinating as a sort of a general topic. And I feel like I instantly would have been like, this is crap. Like what in the world is going on? There's a label on that rat image that literally says DCK.
yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. I thought it said.
Like what is going on?
I had other things to say about that, but that's okay.
She wants to talk about the rat.
I didn't actually.
Please, Miranda, please.
I was just going to say that like that one with the Jackstat was like, I have seen images that complicated in like older papers, like before AI imaging. So it's like, I would totally buy that a reviewer would not have caught that. Cause it's like, when you get to cell regulation and cell metabolism stuff, you will just see images with like 50 things.
I mean, the Krebs cycle to me looks kind of like that. It's not even as complicated as that.
Imagine that, but that's like a fifth of it. Yeah. And then like everything. And it's like, all of this I will talk about. And I'm like, no, you're not.
I would love to invite you to some of our immuno lectures.
Yeah, I did.
Oh God.
I did try to get the AI to generate a Krebs cycle the other day, just for kicks. It can describe the Krebs cycle real well, as far as I can tell, but the image is just completely ridiculous. There's
Dave's like, yeah, sure, I don't know.
Can I just say the Krebs cycle gets so much, and I can't, we already talked about the fact that I can't swear, but gets so much flack. And the Krebs cycle does not deserve this. The Krebs cycle is 12 steps. It's like complicated, but it's not, by far not the hardest thing you learn in medical school. Everyone hates on the Krebs cycle, and it's lovely.
It's not that it's the hardest. It is that the energy that you need to study it compared to the utility of it in practicing medicine makes it probably one of the less useful uses of your time, I guess.
I guess it's fair, but it's also one of the most elegant bits of cell metabolism, in my opinion. Like, it's just so lovely. It's just such a lovely thing, and it's so beautiful, and it's tracing.
This is why certain professors like to make songs about it.
Yes.
Meandering in the margins of medicine, it's the Shortcoat Podcast.
Weird news,
fresh views,
helpful clues, and interviews.
By students, for students.
Subscribe to our weekly show at theshortcoat.com.
Welcome back to the Shortcoat Podcast, the show that gives you an inside look at medical school from the students drinking from that fire hose. It's a production of the University of Iowa Carver College of Medicine. With me today in the SCP studio, I didn't say my name, is Dave Etler.
Hey Dave.
We know who you are.
With me today in the SCP studio, M1 Fallon Jung is here.
Hi.
we've got MD PhD student Miranda Schene.
Hello.
From our studio, I was going to say from our studio. No, this is not quite. We've also got M2 Jeff Goddard.
I am here, yeah.
Yeah, in person.
Forgot me twice.
And we've got a special guest, an alumni of the Carver College of Medicine and of the podcast, now in his second year of family medicine residency in Nashville, Tennessee. It's Teneme Konne, MD.
MD.
Good to be back.
MD.
With the MD.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we're going to get there.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It happens.
One day.
How many times have you used the Krebs cycle in clinical practice?
Never.
Never.
Not once.
Never
Not
have used.
once.
Okay.
Teneme, can I ask you a much more personal question?
Yes.
Cycle haters.
Yeah, go for it.
So you're in Nashville. Where are you from?
Des Moines, Iowa.
Des Moines, Iowa. Okay. I was going to... Des Moines, Iowa doesn't have anything.
No.
How's the Nashville barbecue scene stack up?
I have not checked it out. I've been mainly kind of hitting up the music scene here.
Oh, good. Yeah.
A lot of the jazz clubs have been really nice.
I'm going to be upfront with you. The barbecue scene in Nashville is going to blow Des Moines out of the water. It's so good.
It feels like damning with faint praise, not going to lie.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean... Yeah, there's not really much in Des Moines. I am currently doing my rotations in Des Moines and have not run into good barbecue. But
so this is straight up like your personal rant about Des Moines barbecue that you've just inserted into our conversation.
He could have been from North Carolina. He could have been from Texas. He could have been from Louisiana. There's so many places that do barbecue in their own unique way.
But like
Nashville has a phenomenal flavor to it.
All I'm saying is that you did not bring that up because you wanted to talk about Nashville barbecue. You brought it up because you wanted to complain about Des Moines barbecue.
I didn't know he was from Des Moines when I brought it up. Sorry.
Miranda.
This is on me.
Miranda has assumed the agent of chaos role.
Yeah, she walked in with the chip on her shoulder. She was ready to fight when she came here.
As far as I'm concerned, this is the traditional role of the lab hermit. As I walk in and I cause the chaos.
She's been out of action for months, and all of a sudden she reappears and is like, I'm going to throw this shit right into.
They brought me out of retirement for one last mission.
Jeff, you've joined us just as you're finishing your first.
You said Jeff again.
I did, but this time I meant it.
Oh, okay. All right.
Jeff, you've joined us just as you're finishing your first clerkship. Is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
What was it?
It was pediatrics, and I have to admit, it's kind of all downhill from here.
Oh, okay. Because you like the peds.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, guys. I mean, I don't really care how you feel about kids, but like objectively, I'm going on Family Med next, and you can back me up on this. But like, I'm going to be taking care of Grandpa. And Grandpa's a nice guy, but like objectively, he is less attractive than that newborn. That newborn is just so freaking cute. You could be taking care
of the newborn though too. That's the beauty of family medicine.
Yeah, but I also have to take care of Grandpa, and I really just want to hang out with the next newborn. Not
come on, Grandpa's
Grandpa.
A lot of good
Grandpa's
life
fine.
lessons.
He can't compare to like
so many good stories.
A 2-month-old
baby is a potato.
It's a cute potato.
A sweet smelling,
a loud potato.
A loud, if you know what you're doing, they're not that loud. They're fine.
Teneme, what's your position?
I know I need to.
What's your position that you absolutely do not want to take on this?
I will say, I will just add to what he said. I agree in part, but you can't talk to a baby.
Yes,
you can talk to.
You can talk to a baby. They just don't talk back.
And,
which
thank you,
some might argue is better.
Yeah, and they don't talk back, but that talking back is key.
That's.
I don't know. All this talk back that Miranda's giving me, I feel like I would rather
that were only discovered when we were talking about our personal lives, each other, things that are kind of outside of medicine, and that's really where you build that rapport in family medicine. That's when folks come back and they feel like this guy knows who I am, knows what I'm about.
Yeah,
Babies have to come back. Their parents.
Well, I mean, but you build that same rapport with the parents. And one of the things that I've loved about peds, I would say 95% of the parents, probably more, they soak it up. They are just so excited to be given the tools to be good parents. Every single well child visit, every parent in the hospital trying to figure out what was going on with their kid, every newborn nursery visit that I was doing the rounds on, every one of those parents, they were just so excited for me to tell them how they can be good parents. And I loved it. That was phenomenal. Big fan of that.
Teneme, I have a question. So you are in your your first year residency or second year residency?
Second year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you mostly in a hospital? Are you in a clinic? What does it look like for you?
So in our program, first year we do about 3 months inpatient, and then every week we have at least one clinic day, no matter what rotation we're on. So we have a home clinic that will do either a half day or a full day based on what rotation we're on. So if we're on inpatient month, for example, I'll be inpatient Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday from 6 to 6 approximately, sometimes 7 to 7. Then I'll have a half day on clinic Thursday. And then every Thursday afternoon is our protected time that's for education, whether that be didactics. Sometimes they'll give us like a resident day where we'll have like a resident retreat where we'll go and kind of do things as a class without faculty. I think we went paintball, I think, the last time. Coming up, we're either going to go pickleballing or like a group chef class where you all like cook something together.
That sounds lovely.
You kind of talk like and bounce off each other a little bit. So that's always a lot of fun. And so that's kind of the typical layout. So every week I know I have one clinic day, and then I'll have 4 days on whatever rotation I'm on. And I'll probably get out around 4 p.m. most days. If it's a more intensive rotation, maybe 7 p.m. And I typically have one weekday off, if not both weekdays off, the majority of the time.
That's great. How big's your class? Is it big? Is it little?
So my class was 9 residents. The class above me, they had 8 residents. In the class below me, they have 8 residents.
Oh, so it's teeny tiny. Yeah? Is that normal?
Yeah.
That feels normal. I don't know.
I have no idea.
Feels
I mean, I would say for family medicine residency, I would say it's average.
Oh.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I think I have a couple friends that went to family med, and I hope they don't listen to this because I might get this wrong. But I think one of their graduating classes, one of their intern classes was like 4, and the other one was more 8. So
yeah, but they don't know which one you're talking about. So you could be wrong, but they don't know it's about them.
I only have the 2 friends in family medicine.
Okay, well now they're definitely know.
Now they know. If you know, you know.
Yeah, it's like, listen, if you're listening, friends. They already know. They already know I'm bad at this.
Why? Again, this is not about. This show is not about accuracy. It's about hogwash.
It's about vibes.
It's about vibes.
It's about the vibes.
If it makes you feel any better, I don't even know how many kids are in my medical school class, and I'm in my medical school class. So.
Yeah. If it makes you feel better, I've completely stopped paying attention to the medical school classes. I don't know any of y'all.
Just watch them walk out the door.
Yeah,
I have no
just
idea
like, bye. Have fun advancing in your careers.
I wanted to ask you about your first year of residency, especially like the first weeks of your residency. What was it like in your first weeks?
That first week, I was just thinking, man, this is awesome.
Yeah.
This is awesome. I'm in Nashville. I'm driving around. I feel like I made it. You know, I've got my white coat, both my white coats on.
At the same time.
You know,
wait, do you have a long
at the same time.
Like walking into the grocery store, like, no, it's actually a doctor.
Wait. Do you have a long white coat now?
No, it was good. Huh?
You have a long white coat now.
Yeah.
So the M1 is so easily impressive.
You finally
so
get
cute.
your long white coat, and you're like, all right, I've made it. Your name's on it. You got MD. You're graduated. Med school is now behind you.
You realize that,
right? It's behind you, and you're just looking forward. It was great that first week.
Yeah. Did you
take me back?
How's it been since?
Ups and downs, like as life goes. You know, sometimes you're challenged. You got to make adjustments. You got to step up. Sometimes you don't meet the mark, and you got to try again. So there's been ups and downs, of course, but you know, I feel like I was really fortunate in where I ended up. I feel like I'm in a good environment. You know, I can face the challenges that are ahead of me, and I can be successful.
How is the confidence curve in the beginning?
Ooh, oh man, rough. It kind of feels like med school, where it's like when you first start out, you're kind of cocky, and then you start learning some shit, and then you're like, oh, actually, I'm not that smart. And then you start like, you know, like trying to fix all your knowledge gaps. And then you're like, all right, I kind of feel smart again. And then you meet someone else who's like a genius. And you're all right.
Yeah.
I got to keep working.
I'll be honest though, that's actually been really nice. Me like being on my clinical rotations. I love to see the residents stumped because I'm like, okay, nobody's expecting, like, I'm definitely not expected to be, you know,
I think that's what a lot of people,
expert in everything.
Yeah.
I think that's what a lot of people kind of miss or don't really think about when they first start their rotations. Is like, nobody expects you to be, you know, a genius.
Yeah, I showed up expecting that. Like, I thought like they want me to have like a 10ing level ability here, and I walk in and the resident's like, I don't know how long neutrophils are in the blood, like 2 months, and I'm like, all right, okay, we're all dumb here. We're learning together, and then we make sure we take care of our patients. I love that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I've kind of
that's really important.
Yeah, I've kind of started to see a lot of life in training as a cycle of becoming confident in the knowledge. Confidence gets unseated, building it back up. It becomes unseated again by something else. And it's just like, because it's like every time the confidence dips, it's like, it sucks because it's humbling, but it's also like, this is the step in the journey. Like this makes you more successful and more knowledgeable the next time around.
Yeah. And if you're not like constantly being taken down a peg and then bringing yourself back up, you're like, what are you learning?
Yeah, exactly. It's like if you were confident enough and you know everything, that's about the time when it's like you definitely don't, because if you know everything, you'll know what you don't know.
And this is true, I think, for everybody who has a career or maybe even who just lives, is like, you know, you just, there are times when you're like, I know exactly what I'm doing. And then there are other times when you're like, I should not be here. Yeah.
Who let me do this?
And that's something you'll feel in residency. Sometimes you'll see a patient, they'll come in, the history is bang on, exams bang on, everything fits. And you're just like, this is what you got. And they're like, thank you so much. You give them medication. They come back 2 weeks later. It's gone. And you're just like, hell yeah. You know? So there's that. And then there's I'm not quite sure. I've got 2 or 3 ideas. We'll deal with what's most likely first. We'll use the most cost-effective, least risky treatment options first. And then we'll go from there. See you back in a week. You know, so those are the kind of the 2 sides that you're always kind of ping-ponging back and forth based on your confidence with that chief complaint, the complexity of the chief complaint, or any other social or medication factors that are going on. So like a lot of patients we see, like they're on chronic pain medication. And if they're having, problems with constipation or their bowels, sometimes it's not as simple as let's just stop the opioid, because maybe they need to be on it to do their physical therapy to maintain their mobility in order to keep taking care of their mom or whatever. So there's all these like little things that can kind of complicate what needs and can make what can be a simple problem a more complicated problem just based on what other real life factors. So that's also a part of the curriculum, is dealing with these kind of oddities that you're not confronted with as a medical student.
Yeah. I think my problem has been kind of 2 things. One, so I'll be on the wards and I have pretty bad RBF when I'm out and about. And I have like the same kind of tone. I'm a very dry speaker most of the time. And so people assume that I'm confident. So I have to specifically say, I have no idea what's going on, but here's my assessment and plan based on, I don't know. Because they'll take me serious. They're like, wow, you sounded like really confident about that. Like, you really know what's going on. Like, no, I don't. And then the other side of that is, like, yesterday I took the shelf exam for pediatrics. This is the exam you take at the end of every rotation, right? And I remember reading one vignette. It's like just nailing home this idea of like these opportunistic infections that are like very highly associated with HIV infection. I'm like, this kid has HIV. That's the answer. And I get down, it's not even one of the options.
I hate that.
Boy, that one hurt my feelings. That hurt my feelings. So.
Yeah, hurt my feelings.
Yeah. I feel so good about it. I'm
personally
like, boom,
victimized.
boom, boom.
Raise your hand if you've been personally victimized by a shelf exam.
That is me. Oh, good. It's not just me.
Everyone who's taken a shelf exam.
We all victims here, man. We all victims.
The shelf exams take no prisoners. Anyway.
Was intern year as difficult as you were told or you thought it was?
I think I came in prepared, but I think I was prepared because the program really kind of helped us transition. So they give us, 2 to 4 weeks of what's it called? Like onboarding, just kind of orientation, I guess, showing us what's up, showing us all our different kind of clinical sites, making sure we were set up in terms of our other logistical stuff, whether it be like apartment and, getting our lives set up if we had families and stuff as well. So having that time to kind of get our roots in before hitting residency full speed, I think really helped a lot of us make that more comfortable. I think the fact that it is family medicine and we're not working, 80 hours every week, that definitely helps, because that allows you to have time to do classes, go for a walk at the park. Like, I can go to the gym and go home and still get work done and still be in bed by 9:30 if I want to. If I don't, I'll stay up till 12,
So and check out that music scene.
Yeah, exactly. So just having that flexibility is really important.
So what are you doing, like 60 hours
it's really
a week?
Valuable.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, because it's like, family medicine is still one of the more like time intensive specialties. Like, so you don't work 80 hours a week. Do you work 79 hours a week?
No.
Nice.
Not typically. If we're on the inpatient rotation, we'll approach 80 hours, but typically we don't go over it.
Gotcha.
If we're on other rotations, it's probably more like 60 to 55-ish hours a week average. And that's over like five weekdays typically. And then we have that protected time Thursday afternoon.
Right.
So you can always kind of rely on that Thursday break no matter what's going on. So
looking back on it now, if there was something that you could have changed in your medical education, or like, was there something that you wish that you would have known going in, or known better going in?
I think I would have explored other specialties more as a medical student, because I think I was really focused into going into anesthesia actually, and that did not work out, and that kind of left me a little in the air, because all of my focus, all of my effort, all of what I had been building myself up to be was to be an anesthesiologist. And so when that didn't happen, I really had to refine myself, kind of put myself back together, and then try to find a way forward. So I would say, looking back, if I had considered other specialties, even like, 10% more across all of them, I think it would have either made me more certain in my desire to be an anesthesiologist. Maybe that would have pushed me to work a little bit harder, or, on the opposite side, it would have made, making that transition a little bit less jarring. So.
What was it? Can I ask a personal question then? What was it like realizing that anesthesia was not going to work out?
Oh, it sucked. I was just like, man, like it's a hard left.
I guess we should be specific. How did you find out that it was, if you want to talk about this?
Oh, how did I find out? Oh, okay. So I didn't match, and then I had to do SOAP, ended up going into family med. So I think in the end it worked out, because here's something else that I learned going through this. I think this was the biggest takeaway. No matter what job I'm doing, I'll be the one doing it. And so I still get to do, the work in a way that is in line with my values of what I think is right, what I think is wrong. And so whether if I'm an anesthesiologist or a family med doc, I will still be a doctor. I will still be doing things. I will still be managing things. I will still be applying my knowledge and making a difference. And so with that, I was like, you know what? If one door closing, I'm looking for the next door that's opening, and I'm picking the best door I can, and I'm just staying true to, what I wanted to do in the first place, which was to help people. So, I mean, in a way, it kind of made me kind of re-steel myself a little bit more, and then keep going forward.
Yeah, you seem happy with how it worked out.
It really did make me grow, and I think now that I'm in this place now, I feel like I've become a bigger person as a result. So I'm happy with the growth that I have. But would I had wanted things to not go this way? Of course. I don't think anybody wants to have a hard time in life, any more than what's necessary.
Were there any surprises for you about being a resident physician?
Yeah. I mean, you get a lot more respect. I wasn't ready for that. Like
I'm still waiting.
Hospital, like people just kind of like get out of the way, and you're like, oh, it's cool. Like I'm just like, so I think that was a surprise. Just kind of people kind of addressing you as like sir, doc, and just kind of having that higher kind of level of respect that you don't always get as constantly as a med student. So that was a nice surprise.
I did get mistaken for a doctor the other day at the hospital. I did not correct them.
Oh.
I just kept on rolling. Some nurses were talking in the elevator, and I guess I was leaving clinic, and I was in like, nicer clothes, kind of like this, I guess.
Yeah.
And
you weren't wearing your coat.
I wasn't wearing a coat.
Yeah.
Because you don't wear your coat to most clinics.
Right.
Yep.
And I was just wearing an outfit very similar to this, and I think I had my stethoscope still on because I wasn't thinking about it, so it was like, around my shoulders. And I was on the elevator, and I was kind of joshing with the nurses, and they made a comment about like, life's kind of hard. Like it's been a kind of a rough day in the hospital or whatever. And I was like, yeah. And like, yeah, you get it. You're a doctor. And then I was like, I'm gonna let this one go. This feels nice. This
is not one of those situations where I'm required to.
It's funny. I've had a similar experience, but someone thought I was a nursing student. Go figure.
No, it sucks.
Yeah, I don't remember. I think it was a free medical clinic, but it was like I'm a student. I'll be starting, and it's like, oh, a nursing student. I'm like, oh, whatever, it's fine. Yeah. Like I had to correct them because the questions I was asking are obviously not nursing questions, but it was just like,
yeah.
That's hard.
I will say
just checking your privilege real quick.
Yeah.
I will say my opinion on like always wearing my professional attire change as a resident, as a med student. Like I don't like wearing my short white coat, but as a resident, like wearing your coat and always making sure people can identify you really does make a difference in your workday. So like now I'm on team. You know, I at least have a badge and some kind of attire that shows like what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And that really does that makes a big difference.
I've actually noticed that this varies a lot just depending on like what clinic you're in. Like I feel like if I'm wearing my white coat around here, like my student white coat, it actually like it makes me look less mature. Like I've actually noticed that people will take you less seriously wearing your white coat around, where it's like, and even in other clinics I've noticed a lot of physicians don't do it. They just wear the badge and the stethoscope. But like when I've been doing more procedural stuff, you know, everybody's wearing scrubs, so the doctors wear the scrubs and a white coat as well, and that was like a visual differentiation. And then there's some that don't. So I've actually noticed this varies a lot by like clinic and by specialty.
That's interesting.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So Family Med residency is 3 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, 3 years.
Okay. But you have the ability to like go into fellowship. Is that a thing you can do?
Yeah.
Do you plan on doing
there are
that?
fellowship options.
Do you plan on doing that, or is that not something that you're that interested in?
That's not something I'm that interested in. I don't think there's anything I want to do that would require me to get a fellowship to do it, essentially.
What are the fellowships?
So like,
oh, sorry.
Yeah. So what are the fellowships?
Yeah.
So I think some of the big buckets is like sports medicine. There's OB, sports medicine, OB. There's like pain medicine. I think you can do addiction potentially as well. I think pain, addiction are a little smaller. Like there's not as many spots for those two, but those are the ones that I know off the top of my head, at least the ones that I was interested in.
Gotcha.
In potentially doing if I was going to do one. But I think from the docs I've talked to, a lot of them kind of recommended that I go straight into practice and just kind of get through those first 2 or 3 years where you really do a lot of your growth working as an fully independent doc. So I really want to make sure I minimize the time between me finishing residency and getting through those first 3 years and really kind of establishing myself, getting a good patient panel. And then from there, I might do a fellowship, in the future if I think it's necessary. But I feel like doing it now, the cost, like that's one less year worth of pay. That's your loans, getting one more year worth of growth. And there's things that I want to do in life as well, right? Like I want to travel. I want to buy a house. There's certain goals that I want to meet. And so I think going straight into work is the best way to kind of be in line with my goals.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a pivot since you brought up sports medicine. That's just a little funny for me. You can cut that out. So you are in family medicine. You get the first touch, right? You're putting the ball in play, so to speak, when it comes to healthcare. Miranda just cannot handle these.
It's just the phrasing.
The first touch matters.
Yeah, well, here's okay. So yeah, I didn't need to go into
sports thing.
Yeah, I would prefer. I don't really like.
I watch car racing.
That's fine. Yeah. So I don't like combat metaphors. I tend to go with either sports metaphors or another metaphor that I can find.
Shortcoats, if this episode is worth listening to this far, it's worth sharing. So blast us on your socials, and if you want a sticker for your trouble, send us a screenshot. Thanks.
You're like your first point of contact for people experiencing healthcare in our country. How's that going? From like that perspective, like the fact that
that's a great
there's a lot on your shoulders,
That's a great
you
question.
are.
Oh my gosh, that's so flexible.
God.
Oh
No,
my
it comes
gosh,
in
his
two parts,
arms have
man.
vanished. Oh my gosh.
It's because there's so much weight on his shoulders
sorry.
carrying.
There's a lot, man.
Were you a
That
gymnast?
question's so deep. So I would say from the good side, it's hella rewarding because you're kind of the quarterback in what's going on. Like they come to you, they want to get something done, and it's like, yes, I can do it, or I got to punt you to someone else that knows better than I do.
Love the sports metaphors.
but that doesn't mean that, you know, I'm not involved. I'm not following along with what the specialist is doing. It just means that I'm there if you have any questions. Because all these specialists, like, they have, like, you know, 6, 5, 9 month follow-ups, you know, and so they can't see them as frequently as they can see me. But I can read the specialist notes. I can call their office if there's questions. I can see kind of what they're doing, and I can help, you know, facilitate their plan, right? And the specialists are only going to deal with their small chunk of medicine with regard to that patient. But that patient has everything else that's going on, and it's my job to kind of keep everything else in perspective for the patient while kind of being, you know, at the very least, up to date with what's happening with the specialists. And so you really are sitting back, you're looking at the big picture, you're trying to make the best of a not great situation in a lot of cases. But that doesn't mean there's not, you know, room for improvement. And many times there's a lot of room for improvement, especially when folks come in as new patients. They got, you know, 20, 30 medications. First thing I do is, a lot of times I can cut people's med list down by half. You know, if they're on more than 10 medications, you know, a lot of times they're on things that are not necessary, that are kind of overkill. And when you cut back some medications, they'll actually start feeling better. They'll have less kind of erroneous symptoms that kind of bother them. They don't really know what's causing it. And so that really makes a big difference. Just being able to sit back, get the whole picture, and trying to make the best of what's going on.
Absolutely.
So I have a follow-up to that. We have talked about on this podcast more than once the idea that there is a trend in American medicine toward a hyper-specialization, right? And there's also something we haven't talked as much about. There's a trend toward, I don't want to say hyper generalization, but increased generalization for the general practitioners. What I mean is, you have orthopedic surgeons who essentially, they like focus on the right knee, right? Like they get so specialized.
I do operations on this finger.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, that's their world. And they get so good at it that it's kind of an accident. Sometimes they're just getting referred the same thing over and over and over because, you know, people are like, yeah, you did a really great job on that other guy's right knee. You're going to get all the right knees or whatever, you know? But that happens. I dump on ortho a lot. They're doing fine. They've got 3 yachts. I don't feel bad. But
Ortho's so easy to dunk on, though. It's like they're so easy to dunk on.
Some people are just, you know, giving it up.
It's because they're focused too much on upper body. You know, they don't do cardio.
Yeah, they don't do leg days enough.
Skip leg day.
Yeah, they're skipping their leg days.
So I guess my concern with overgeneralization is essentially, you know, it's almost expected as the primary care provider and family medicine that you're taking into account not only all of their medical needs, but also their para-medical needs, their pseudo-medical needs, things like looking at their social history, looking at, you know, their diet, looking at their their financial plan, looking at where they're living and how that is affecting their health. And it's kind of creating, like, I don't know, it almost feels like the more some practitioners are forcing themselves into a smaller and smaller tent, the more our primary care providers are almost being forced by society to fill a bigger and bigger role in order to properly provide good health care. Am I wrong in that assumption? Do you feel like you're seeing that, or what's your experience with that?
No, I think that's the reality. I think that's the reality. You know, as we get more specialized, it just means that there's less people doing things that people still need to have done, essentially. And that kind of falls back on the family care, because again, like, we are kind of the first and the last folks you see a lot of the times if you're not dying. If you end up dying, last person you're gonna see is probably a hospitalist, you know. So we're kind of the entrance and the exit of the medical system in a lot of cases. And when people are entering something, you know, if things go wrong, if you miss something. So for example, if a patient, you know, comes into the hospital, they're sick, you think they have pneumonia, you treat them for pneumonia, but let's say that you missed a UTI, right? You already gave them Recephin. They were there. They were getting monitored. If they had gotten worse, you probably would have known about it. You would have been clued in by their ultimate status, and you probably would have caught the UTI on day 2 or day 3 if you had missed it on admission, right? But when that patient is leaving the hospital, that's actually the most critical time, because that's when they're coming out of that safety wing back into the outside world. And your job is to say, will this patient be safe going out? And what do they need to be safe? And if they're not going to be safe, where can they go? And if they can't go there, are there any other options? Yeah. Right. And so that's kind of where the unfun kind of starts in, and kind of where you start running into walls and barriers and complications.
Yeah, that makes sense. I have heard a lot of really heart-wrenching stories about like patients where it's like, well, they're not sick anymore, like we fixed them, but like, you know, and actually this happened to my grandma where it's like she had to stay an extra like 3 days in hospital because her, you know, care facility did not accept transfers on weekends. And it's like, they said she was ready to go home on a Friday afternoon, but it's like, sorry, you have to stay here another 2 days, you know, in an unfamiliar city because the bus won't come for you. And it's like, and like, that's a very benign example, but it's an example of a type of just like, there's factors in, you know, making these decisions that are not medicine based that you still have to make because you are the point of contact.
And you're also trying to, you know, act in their best interest, right? It's like, just because we can do this option that maybe it's easier, but I know it's worse for you. Yeah. Like, me in good faith, I still have to try to get you the more proven, tested option first, you know? So that's also a challenge as well. It's like, do we do what's easier, but maybe not as much benefit, or do we kind of squeeze a little harder and try to get more benefit, maybe less likely to go through with insurance, right? Yeah. And there's a time cost of that too, right? If we do one, we can't do the other, because if I do both options, insurance is not going to like it, right? So, and that's a part of the shared decision-making process with the patient. And so that's when I bring the patient, I'm like, hey, we can do A, we can do B. If we do A, insurance will push back a bit. I can say, hey, it's worked the last couple of times I've done it, or it doesn't usually work. Or we can do B, we can do it today, it's cheaper, might not work, could work, you know, and just kind of share the risks and the benefits of both of those options with the patients, and kind of aid them making a decision, and also providing my expert opinion if they would like to hear it, you know. So that's how I approach it.
Now that you're a second year resident, has your idea of what medical school is supposed to accomplish changed? So in other words, when you were in medical school, you thought, oh, this is what medical school is for. And then when you got out and you started like experiencing your profession as a professional, did you think that, oh, that's what medical school is really supposed to be doing?
No, it's a tough question. I think there's definitely parts of medical school that are unnecessary, but I think by and large, a lot of it is necessary.
I need to know what parts you think are unnecessary.
But in terms of,
I know,
but it's not worth stressing over.
But in terms of what it's supposed to teach you and the transition in residency, I think it's just so hard, because as a medical student, like you can't be confronted with the full scope of real world medicine because it's just too much. Like if you came in first day and you had to take a history, you know, do an exam, give me an assessment plan, give me your top 3 differentials for each assessment, give me medications first line for each of those, and tell me about her social history and why she can't get that because of her insurance, and do that in 30 minutes, like it'd be way too much. So I think the fact that medical school is kind of more focused on the basics, I think is good, because once you have those down, now we can add on all this other nonsense with the complications and why you can't do the first line option, and why you have to get a little bit creative now and kind of walk into the art of medicine.
So I asked this question because I have a theory that medical school is really, what medical school really does is teach you how to be a medical learner. And residency is what teaches you how to be a doctor.
I agree with that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Which I like, because if we can circle back to the Krebs cycle.
Yes.
Much in the same way.
I think we always do.
Every round of the Krebs cycle produces a molecule of. Acetyl-CoA goes in. Yeah. Molecules of ATP.
You're the PhD. You tell me.
I was going to say, you can't bring it up and then not know it.
I do ion channels. But it's like, you don't need to know it in your daily practice, but like if you're ever talking to someone and they mention that like, oh, this, particular drug or this particular treatment raises levels of, alpha ketoglutarate, you might not remember specifically what that does, but you will pick up in your mind, like, wait a second, I know that that's a metabolic thing. So you'll know like what to be looking for down the road. Mm-hmm. Like it might not necessarily be like, oh, I know this cofactor and this cofactor, but like taking the time to know all of that means that the basics will be stored in your memory forever.
It's in there somewhere.
It's in there somewhere.
I will say that I am very grateful for the praise that you're giving me, that I'm going to remember that alpha ketoglutarate has something to do with metabolism.
Well, it's
it's probably a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a broad association, but it's there. It's there somewhere.
Yeah. So it sounds like you deal with a lot of social determinants of health while you're working currently. Did you feel adequately prepared for that from medical school? Or if you didn't, how have you gotten that information, or like how have you learned those things besides trial and error? And secondly, I am actually interested in what parts of medical school you think are not useful. And I only say that because they're like, obviously there's room for improvement everywhere, not necessarily getting rid of things, but like, how could it have been more relevant to you in some way?
This is where you're going to write on the exams when they're asking, it's like, were there any errors? It's like, yeah, I was talking to a resident and this doesn't matter. So take it off. You shouldn't have asked me this. It's rude of you.
Okay. Oh, man. So I guess in terms of like medical school, what was most relevant? I would say the core rotations, super relevant. Go hard on those. That first year of didactics, first year and a half, really, really, really relevant. I would say when you get into fourth year and there's more downtime and you're not really doing your core rotations, you're just kind of like hanging out for a year. At least that's how my last year kind of felt.
That's how it felt when I was watching
I was hanging out. Yeah. So I mean, I think fourth year could definitely be condensed and maybe shortened, or I don't know. But I think that's how I would start first. I think the first 2.5 years when you're doing didactics and core, that's really where you get a lot of your good growth. Yeah. And I feel like that's where I really grew, was in that first 2.5 years. And then that last year, I felt like my growth was not as high. That was more about just kind of getting ready professionally and kind of doing other things. But I guess there's really no way around that. Yeah. What was your other question? I think
it's social determinants of health.
Yeah. Did you feel prepared? And then if not, how are you learning that information now besides trial and error?
I don't think there's really any way you can be prepared for that. It's just such a moving target. So I guess I wasn't really prepared for it in medical school. By medical school. And unfortunately, the best way I've learned it is through trial and error. It is the best teacher. We do have some didactics that are kind of geared towards social determinants of health on a residency program. It is something that is kind of stressed by ACGME. And so like all programs have to have some component of it as a part of their curriculum. My program specifically, we do like some residents are doing like projects that are kind of focused around that. And so I think one of our interns are doing this like project where they go to a local park in Antioch, which is a city here in Tennessee, and they just walk, kind of promote health, try to get community involvement, make it be like a group walking activity. And I think they potentially could be, they could parlay into like a research study in the future, or if it becomes bigger, it could become a bigger tradition, and just trying to promote health in the local communities. And of course, with our continuity clinic, which is the main clinic that we work at, we see a very diverse population just based on where it's located in Nashville. So that's really rewarding. I think the best way to learn social determinants of health is to be in it. You can't learn it in a lecture. Yeah,
you can. I suppose you're sort of being primed in medical school to think about these things. Mm-hmm. But it's only when you really start to see them in action either in, clerkships or in, once you're a resident, like that's got to be the time when you're really, the rubber is really meeting the road, I imagine.
Right.
Exactly.
There you go. We got to cars for you.
Yeah, the rubber.
Yay!
Yeah.
It's out of my mind because the Formula One season starts next week. From when we're recording
that's very
this.
exciting for you.
Oh, so when this comes out, it'll actually be in like 2 days because the Bahrain Grand Prix is on May 2nd or March 2nd. Excuse me, March 2nd.
The what Grand Prix?
Bahrain. That's the season opener. Is in Bahrain.
You're an F1 girly.
I am an F1 girly.
There you go.
I've been told that the one in Indianapolis, what's that one called?
The Indianapolis 500.
Oh, that one.
That's not it.
I've been told that one is the largest annual gathering of humanity.
Oh,
period.
gosh.
Of humanity.
Oh, wow.
So it is the largest religious gathering because, let's be honest, sports is a religion. Checks all the boxes.
Yeah.
So good for you. Yeah.
I don't watch that one. That's not Formula
John
One.
Green goes to that one.
John Green just goes to that one.
Yeah, he's a big fan.
Did you read
I feel like Jeff is like,
No, I'm
you should
just
have a bingo card for Jeff.
I'm
Like
so
if he
happy
brings up
'cause
John Green in the
I've been
podcast.
I feel like I've been hanging out recently in circles where people don't know who Hank or John Green are before they were on like TikTok, and I'm like, yes, people that know the Green brothers. Thank goodness. Yeah, Hank Green's becoming a really famous science TikToker guy.
I have been following these guys since like original Pizza John. Like,
yeah.
It's been a minute.
All the way in Brotherhood 2.0.
Yes.
Oh yeah. I didn't find them till 2011, but like still.
Grew up on the brothers.
They're so
I know.
good.
Basically raised me, quite frankly.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah. I just like that was like that was still at a time when it was like nerds were transitioning into being cool but weren't quite cool yet. So it was like a kind of a weird time to, be a teenager. And that was just like, hey,
it's definitely a weird time.
I think
teenagers.
I think it's always a weird
it's
time
always
to be
weird.
a teenager.
You know what? You're not wrong.
I think the problem, we've talked about this before, but I think nerds started becoming cool with the movie Revenge of the Nerds.
Yeah.
In the many sitcom spoofs since that. It's before your time, trust me.
Yeah, you don't.
No, I'm not sure if I agree.
But here's my argument. But it has never been fun to be a teenager. And so you get to adulthood as a nerd and you're like, oh, there are other nerds out there who accept me. Like I can go to Comic-Con or whatever. This is a thing. Like I can play board games with my friends. This is a thing. But as a teenager, nobody likes being a teenager, and teenagers are going to pick on each other for literally everything they can.
I was actually going to say that Harry Potter's rise in popularity was about when I noticed the inflection point.
Well, it's about the same time.
Fair enough.
Revenge of the Nerds is 80s, and then Harry Potter started in the 90s. So
okay.
Teneme, are we a nerd or a jock?
Or both?
I was more nerd.
Yeah.
Like I was like running. I was like using my body, but I was definitely a nerd.
The man went to medical school. Of course, he's a nerd.
Oh.
Yeah, but is he a crib cycler?
Let's talk about.
There's scales of nerd.
Scales.
No, nerd to jock is not an either or. It's a spectrum. So the question is flawed.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a flawed man.
Aww.
We love you all the same.
We love you.
Flawed human being. Well, I had more to talk about on today's show, but I think we have to stop.
We have 5 more minutes.
Well, Fallon has to go.
No, it's okay. I'll just pop out and you guys keep doing your thing. Thank you so much, Teneme. This was really interesting, and thank you for letting me learn from you.
Yeah.
Okay,
I wanted to look at Medscape's physician lifestyle and happiness report.
Can I just say that little girl's neck looks like it's broken and it's physically disturbing me?
Fair.
I don't like her head angle.
She's got a sternocleidomastoid strain.
She's got some going on. It's
go on.
I want your top 3 differentials.
Also,
I'm going with the sternocleidomastoid, probably hearing issue.
You're good.
Yeah,
I'm winning.
You are winning. I don't remember any of this. It's been years since I've had to diagnose anything other than a runny nose.
That's the important one.
Yeah.
So this Medscape's physician lifestyle and happiness report, it's just basically a survey of physicians and the kinds of things that they do and experience as far as their lifestyle and happiness.
Therapy number needs to be way higher.
This slide is how physicians try to maintain their happiness and mental health. I feel like these are all pretty unsurprising things.
I mean, I would say the therapy is probably the most surprising.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
That there's not more.
Yeah, although again,
because like this was with docs, right? So we all know better.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I'm gonna push back on this. I'm gonna push back on this. I think therapy is important and valid and useful, but here's my pushback. I don't go to the doctor to maintain my physical health. You know, I'll do like my checkups and stuff, but like I'm not regularly going. They give me the tools and then I go and apply those tools in my personal life, right? And I think the therapy can be more or less the same way, where you can go to therapy for a time or for an issue, gain the tools, and then go and do some maintenance that doesn't require you to go back to therapy for a long time.
Fair enough, actually. Yeah. I think people often use therapy to just try to figure something specific out.
Yeah. And I think that it should be like for a period of time. Yeah, you go and you see and you get your therapy, and then you go to back to excercising or sleeping.
I think that's completely fair. I'm just surprised it's that low. Like that's like 11% is a very low number.
It could have been phrased as only like, you know, going to see someone as therapy in the question stem where they, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We don't exactly know how that was phrased.
That's
because,
true.
You know, for some people, exercise is therapy. Sleeping is therapy. You know, like making a good meal is therapy.
And see, that's kind of my point. It's like PT or OT, right? Like you go to them, you learn the skills, and then you go and do the therapy at home.
Yeah. And I already have kind of some beef with the survey already, because activities/hobbies that I enjoy is such a broad category that includes at least two of the other ones. Like
respondents could choose more than one.
But like,
yes,
I still don't like that phraseology.
Would you take less pay for better work-life balance? 54% said yes. I'm
not surprised by that.
I'm not surprised. Okay. I'm surprised it's not higher, but I'm not surprised.
I think the problem is that medical students freak out because they've got this $200,000 in debt.
Yeah.
And then they become an attending and they're making $200,000-$300,000, and they're like, wait, maybe the money isn't what mattered when I was making my decision about lifestyle.
Yeah. Yeah, and I will say that the debt thing, I imagine, accounts for a lot of those no respondents.
Yeah.
Are physicians conflicted as parents due to work demands?
Hey, there's that bar. Those bars.
Women are very conflicted.
Yeah.
Women are more conflicted than men at the top end.
Yeah.
Of these skills.
Yeah. Shocking. Yeah. Exactly 0 people.
Yeah. How doctors prioritize more personal and family time?
Oh, that's
so if they're below age 45.
That's kind of sad that as I get older, it's less.
Well, hang on. Let me describe this.
I think that makes sense because your kids are older, so it's like
because there's less. Yeah,
you're less worried about missing like the big milestones, you know, or like the soccer game. Or,
you're right. That makes sense. That makes sense. I guess it's like I think of 45 as like your kids are 7. Like that's where I'm thinking.
So my in-laws are not 50 yet. And my wife's 37 or 27. She's not 37.
Yeah.
She's 27. So like, you know, they've got 4 kids out of the house already and they're not quite 50.
Yeah.
So,
like personal bias. Like I think like my parents had like me at quite like a relatively older time. Yeah. So it's like my scale is off.
Yeah.
No, you skipped one.
How doctors prioritize more personal and family time by gender. So men and women are being compared here, and men say
it's like I want to know what the SEM range.
It's very important. Women. So I'm trying to interpret this for a non-visual audience. Go look at our YouTube.
Yeah,
they're donuts.
Yeah, men at 68%, very important. Women at 76%, which is like different, but it's not that big of a gap. I can't see the other 2 percentages, but I feel bad for that 1% on both of them, which is not at all important. It's like, aw, why? It's sad.
My personal time is not important.
Yeah.
Well, I can feel like some people find like they define themselves as physician. If that's like where you're getting your life satisfaction, that is the fulfillment.
Yeah.
You know, and so they don't need the outside fulfillment as much, which I can respect that. I'm not saying that that's who I am. Yeah. I define myself as father.
I can respect that.
I get it.
Yeah. I don't think it's healthy, but I can respect it.
I don't know.
Speaking of healthy, how healthy is your diet?
I love
oh God.
Well,
I'm definitely in the somewhat unhealthy piece of the pie.
Yeah, I'm in that 16% somewhat unhealthy. Also, I want to know if this is self-reported or not, because I feel like I've definitely been delusional before about how healthy my diet's been.
These are definitely self-reported.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be real. Yeah, my diet's pretty freaking healthy, but also I get like I'm in Des Moines and they give me like money to buy food, so it's pretty nice.
Yeah, I had chocolate chip cookies for breakfast this morning.
So you're saying the money helps you be healthy?
Yeah, it turns out money does help you be healthy.
Yeah,
turns
weird.
out money helps.
Yeah. Every time there's a new study that's X food is actually really healthy for you, I'm like, is it just because it's really expensive and rich people are eating it? Because it might just be that they're rich. That's
it's
why they're
if
healthy.
It's sold at Whole Foods, your data is already it's like skewed.
It has nothing to do with what they're eating. It's everything else that they're doing with their life.
It was like back in like the 2010s when everyone went nuts over quinoa. Like I was a swimmer at that point, and every swimming magazine was like, eat as much quinoa as you can possibly stomach.
And I'll be honest, quinoa is my favorite grain.
The quinoa is delicious.
It's just a grain. Like, calm down. It's fine.
It's right. Rice does the same thing.
Yeah.
Like it's just a grain. It's fine. It's yummy, but it's fine.
It's not a superfood, Jeff?
I mean, it looks cool because when you cook it, it's got those little like spiral things that come out. It looks really cool.
It's a super tasty food.
Okay. Are physicians trying to control their weight? 50% say they would like to lose weight. I guess that mirrors the general population.
I was going to say, I want to know general population stats on that.
Yeah.
Like this doesn't mean a whole lot in isolation.
Yeah. I feel like, it's at least half the population is overweight, right?
Yeah.
I feel like,
I would hope it'd be pretty similar in general population.
Yeah.
Well, you made it to the second break. You tolerate us. If you can, consider donating or buying a sticker or something. Visit theshortcoat.com and help us do stuff without having to beg a dean for money. Thanks.
For the family med guy, or maybe you who knows something about math, I don't know. So I recently heard somebody say what seemed to me the most asinine sentence I've ever heard.
Oh, God.
18% of children are above the 90th percentile in BMI. What the hell does that mean?
Oh, no.
18% can be above 95%. That's not how that works.
That's like 60% of the time you're always
how
right.
do these growth charts work? Are they static? Are they based off of like what kids were in 1995? I don't know.
Where did you hear this, first of all, so we know how reputable of a source this was?
It was a reasonable source. It was, I mean, the person was spreading a lot of like really good data and they were analyzing a lot of data, but the fact that they said this isn't surprising that this is how it's communicated. It's just not right. Like you can't have 18% of the population above 95%.
Maybe the phrasing is a little incomplete. I mean, I can maybe see someone saying, compared to the growth chart in the 80s or the 90s, today's kids would have been more above that old percentile. That I could see.
Yeah, that was the first thing I thought of.
As the way that you said it, no, that does not make sense.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
We're assuming that's a complete sentence of itself.
Yeah.
So
percentiles are based on like the current population data.
Yeah.
How often physicians exercise? Teneme likes exercise.
Where am I?
Yeah.
Oh, dude. Now that I'm back on the wagon, I'm in that second block 2-3 times a week.
Yeah.
I bike to the hospital every day, and that's my excuse to never go to the gym.
Yep, same here.
I take the stairs, and every time I do, I'm like, I'm never lifting a weight again. Let's do this.
Yep. I know that.
I was in great shape back in Carver. I was biking to class every day. It was great.
Bro, I got noodle arms, but I got thighs of steel. Let's go.
I will say that is like one of my personal like little toxic things is that it's like I took the stairs up 2 flights to get to my lab. That means I deserve a cookie with lunch. Like that's how I burned that off. Is I went up 2 flights of stairs.
Fair.
And then took the elevator the rest of the day.
Here's how much alcohol physicians drink.
Oh, you liars! No.
Drinks per week.
Yeah.
Per week.
How do you think they're lying?
No, I'm just defensive.
What's the 26% drinks?
It's just like 28% under one drink a week. I'm like, that's just impressive. Like, I guess maybe that's just because I associate like. Maybe it's just because we're in the Meadows. I just associate like going out and like having a couple beers on like Friday nights, and that would be more than a couple beers on Friday nights.
I'm in that 26% anyway, so we don't even get charts. I did learn recently that a lot of people that are interested in like the liver, they refuse to try to do residency in Utah because what are they going to learn?
What are they going to do?
There. I saw a map of like it was kind of like this like drinks per week per like by state. In Wisconsin, it's just like straight black, right? And like it's like a color gradient. And then you get to Utah and it's so white that it looks like not enough data. Yeah. But like, no, there was enough data. The answer is they don't drink
Wisconsin, it's like the United States is a vortex of alcohol with Wisconsin at the epicenter. Yeah, it just radiates out from there.
I hear Iowa's pretty bad too.
Iowa's
bad
right next door. Yeah,
it bleeds out from Wisconsin. Wisconsin. That's what I mean. It's like Iowa would not be as bad if I mean, Iowa's still bad, but we would not be as bad if Wisconsin weren't right on the border.
Look, here's the problem.
We're enabling each other.
It's cold. It's flat. What are you gonna do?
Yeah,
drink,
what are you supposed to do?
Wisconsin says to Iowa, "Come on, let's go get a drink." I know you want a drink. I was like, "All right," but I told my doctor I wouldn't. But
yeah, but
all right. Let's see. Our put you down here again. Are physicians trying to cut back on their online time? 54% says no.
I'm in the yes.
I'm deeply in the yes camp on this one. I'm pretty sure that Instagram Reels are actively destroying my attention span at this point.
I am in the no, but it's because I don't use it a lot that much anyway. Yeah. I've actively intentionally been trying to control this for myself for years. So it's like I feel like I'm pretty good with where I'm at.
Yeah.
I'm of course not a physician, but I did try to set up screen limits for myself recently just to see what would happen. And the thing that happens is I click ignore screen limits.
Yeah, exactly. I remember I was watching a Drew Gooden video about that, and it's like he installed an app that's notifies you when you've spent an hour, and it's like all that does is just adds 2 extra buttons every hour because I have to click, yes, I want to continue.
Oh gosh, I used up a third of a calorie doing that.
The point of these activities to discuss ADHD is to give you an extra space for your executive function to kick in.
Yes.
That's the same reason why we give medicine to kids with ADHD. It is it's not the tool that's going to make you make the better decision. It's just giving you enough space.
And I will say that if I looked at my stats, I will say that my screen time had decreased.
Yeah.
I don't know how, because I keep hitting that ignore thing.
Yeah.
But
no, it was like a massive problem. I had to delete my TikTok twice because I realized that algorithm is so good that it was continuing to give me stuff that was still interesting. It's like I still have this problem where I will just sometimes lounge forever on Instagram for the same reason, but the algorithm isn't quite good enough. Once I hit 3 or 4 videos where I'm boring, and then I'm I've been on the app too long.
Sure.
TikTok never did that. TikTok's algorithm was so good.
It's very good.
Yeah.
I'm on
must
TikTok.
Be bad at TikTok because my TikTok algorithm has never done that to me.
Oh yeah,
but I only like nerds. Now, so they're on these 10-minute long videos, and I'm halfway through it. I'm that was good information. I'm done with
That's
the app.
That's a lot. Yeah, and also do bear in mind that I first downloaded it during the pandemic. So I had there was no consequence to me spending time on there. So the algorithm basically got to know me at my most vulnerable.
Yeah,
and then from there on, just kept feeding that to me.
I find the algorithm starts out very specific. This makes total sense, right? It starts out very specific to your interest, and then over time it gets so general that I'm more likely to get bored. Although occasionally somebody drops a good TikTok like Jeff about neural tube defects. And then
I do find that I think that I've probably created more TikTok videos than I've watched videos at this point.
Well, I've definitely done more podcast episodes than I've watched. That's
currently my Instagram just thinks that all I care about is horses, and I'm perfectly happy to keep it that way because I do love horses.
My Instagram is skiing, and I'm just just watch people play in the snow. I'm good with that.
Yeah. Now, granted, my
Instagram is people scaring each other.
Although I did go on Instagram after a really bad horse ride, and I just saw all these people doing amazing, and I was like, actually, this is terrible. Why are you all so good at horseback riding?
Teneme, do you avoid social media?
Yeah.
Good.
I try to.
Good for you.
Good.
I feel like it's not good. It's not good for your mental health. I think at this point we all agree it's bad. It's how bad. I think people kind of disagree on how much it affects you. But for me, I feel like it has a big impact, and so I try to stay away from it. I try to seek, interaction face to face as much as possible.
Yeah.
Do families ask you about it?
Social media use?
Yeah. Is that something that comes up in?
Some people do. Yeah. It's not something that comes into play a whole lot unless someone has a complaint related to sleep or attention.
Sure.
But a lot of times I don't address it with patients just because there's
there's so many
a lot of things to do with a lot of these patients.
There was a recent study that the Bloomberg Public Health, the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health recently talked about a study on their podcast that basically says there is not enough data to suggest that social media is uniquely or inherently bad for teenagers.
Sure.
Yeah.
For their mental health, which I thought was a phenomenal study. But the caveat was, this is still something that deserves to be looked at more. There are still some effects of it that need to be discussed because there's some pros, there are some cons.
Well, like anything else, it's dose dependent, right?
Yeah, and we need to make sure that the companies themselves are helping us gather the data we need in order to make this decision.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, it's like I kind of agree that, like, you know, there's nothing that's necessarily inherently wrong with social media, although I think it relies too heavily on platform decisions. Like when it came out that a lot of these platforms were putting things on your feed by engagement, meaning more stuff that made people angry or made people want to like type comments was getting to the front. That was when I was like, because I will notice this where it's like I'll be on social media too long, I start feeling more angry and cynical about the world, and that's also another one of my where it's like I need to stop now because this is making me like the world less.
I will say my main issue with it is that it's not reality. It's like the things people say on social media, they would not say in real life.
Not say in real life. You know? Like there's no filter.
And if they would say it in real life, the tone would not be the same as the tone that you perceive on social media.
Yeah. And it's also like, I mean, a lot of times,
it's like when I meet people who have different like political views in real life and I talk to them, it's not like what you see online when people are just like attacking each other. You know, it's a lot more normal of an interaction when you actually have to look at the person you're talking to.
Yeah.
I'm gonna skip this one.
So I think that's why I don't like it, because like it makes people think the world is the way that it's not, which is everyone's, you know, upset with each other and can't have, you know, good discourse. But in reality, you can have good discourse, but just not on social media.
Yeah.
This slide is how many physicians are married or living with a partner.
That's surprising to me.
Well,
yeah, it's not surprising to me at all.
Isn't there a story that's told about physicians that divorce is rampant among physicians?
That's neurosurgeons. They don't count.
Jesus Christ.
Holy crap.
That's probably right. I don't know.
You know, the old joke is like, how do you hide $20 from a neurosurgeon? And it's pin it to their kid's forehead.
Oh yeah, I've heard that one. Yeah.
To the neurosurgeon out there, I'm kidding. It's a joke.
We're just clowning on, like, listen, ortho, neuro, we clown on you because we're jealous, okay?
Yeah, I don't have a Ferrari. Good for you guys.
Yeah, it's like keep making that bread.
Yep, but even the divorce statistic there is very, I think, low.
I can tell you why. There's a very obvious answer here that it needs to be taken out of medicine. It's not the medicine aspect of physicians. It's the class.
Oh, true.
Wealthy people tend to stay together longer. Wealthy people tend to marry more than people that are poor. There are a lot of reasons for this, and I don't think that it's causal. I don't think being married makes you more wealthy, though certainly having two incomes helps, right? But like, just when you are more financially stable, it is easier to create these lifelong stable relationships. And so, people that are higher up on the socioeconomic ladder tend to be married and tend to stay married. Yeah.
And also, I believe isn't it also people who are higher up in the SES also tend to marry later in life. So are like a little bit more like they've dated for longer and have like more of a certainty and have lived longer with their partner before actually getting married.
I don't know. Maybe
I remember hearing that a while back.
I will say that the best place to get married, somebody got mad at Princeton about this a couple years ago. This lady made a comment and they're like, but it was true. The best place to find your spouse? College. Why? Because they're at college. And they are probably on their way up the socioeconomic ladder, just like you. Or they have come from high up on the ladder, just like you.
Unless they're getting a fine arts degree, and then...
Well, that's why you just...
I clown.
You go to the biology building, right? You go to the economics building. You go to the right
turning
buildings.
Into that one scene from Marvelous Mrs. Maisel where she's talking to all the women about, like, you don't find a husband in the art department. Go to the business department. They're going to make the money.
What's next?
Yeah, grass with flat lines. So interesting.
How physicians describe their marriage. 82%. Yeah. Very good. Yeah. Let's see. Does your spouse or partner also work in healthcare? Not especially.
This looks pretty expected.
Yeah. 20% says yes as a physician. 25% says yes in the healthcare field, but not as a physician.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like basically like 55% met their partner before becoming a doctor. Other met sometime after, like probably met in medical school somewhere around there.
I will also suggest that I've seen a study recently, and I don't know like how good the study was. I didn't like tear it apart like I would on like at Grand Rounds or something. But like the study was essentially that in higher SES couples, one of them tends to be more of a stay-at-home parent by choice because it's like now they have the resources to fully invest in the children, and it is an investment for them. They're seeing it as like making sure that the child's needs are met because that's the family legacy, right?
Yeah.
Which may or may not be a factor here. I don't know. My wife is also in medical school, and I love that we're both going to be doctors. It's going to be dope.
Do physicians have a spiritual or religious belief? 69% say yes.
I would be surprised.
I was surprised this was so high.
I will say,
I'm surprised by this.
I'm going to be interested to see how this evolves over time.
Yeah, well, Jeff is a religious. You're a spiritual guy.
Yeah, devoutly so. Yeah.
And so, how do you?
I'm not surprised by this. Well, one, because we live in the United States, and the majority of people in the United States have spiritual or religious beliefs. So it's not really that surprising compared to the population as a whole. But two, there is an inherent aspect of altruism in most religions. There are obviously, every religion has its pros and its cons, right? But like most religious traditions are communal traditions, and it's at least ostensibly externally facing, right? So there's this idea in Christianity or Islam or Judaism of alms, of making sure that you are taking care of the poor, right? These are built into the religious milieu, right? And so it's not at all surprising that people that grew up with the idea that I have a responsibility to take care of other people would go into a career where they're taking care of other people. That just kind of checks. Now, obviously, there are other things that come along with that, especially cultural baggage in the U.S., but that checks for religion generally.
Yeah. Also, the definition of spiritual makes this a little bit harder to define, because like just having a spiritual belief is slightly different than like following an organized religion. They're in the same ballpark, which is why I assume they lump them together. But it also like, it makes me question like, like what defines a spiritual belief?
Yeah. Like, are they just doing like astrology?
not to clown on it, but that is a part of it. Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, here's the thing. Astrology has probably about as much evidence base as most religious or spiritual practices. We clown on it because I think they put too much stock in it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, if I get, as an Aries,
they're like, let me tell you all about you.
Yeah. Let me tell you all about you. Yeah. Which I like, listen, I love taking those astrology quizzes, but it is fun also to go back through the results and be like, that seems uncanny, but also that's such a broad definition that like I can squint at and make any of these apply to me.
Yeah.
Because guess what? Everybody contains multitudes. Toyota.
Kinds of cars that physicians drive. Toyota is the top. That makes sense, I guess, to me. I mean, not everybody.
I guess it makes sense.
Wait. Can you move the?
No, I just love how overrepresented Tesla is. That makes me so happy.
8%. Tesla's killing it.
Yeah.
Also, Hyundai. Where are my Hyundai people at?
You got to be.
All of those neurosurgeons
I'm on Team Chevy.
Porsche down there.
I'm on Team Chevy.
Chevy? Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah.
What kind of Chevy?
It's an Equinox. Okay. I've had it for quite a while. It's got a ton of miles. It's still going, so I love it.
All right. Yeah, I feel like I see a lot of Toyotas in the parking lot.
Yeah, I like Toyotas because it's fuel efficient. That's
fuel efficient. Fuel efficient, dead reliable.
Yeah.
And when you're a busy person, maybe you don't want to have to deal with an Audi.
I remember when we started making fun of Priuses the first time they came out, and guess what? They're still on the road.
They're still
the same ones.
Yeah.
The exact same. They're still going.
Yeah, everyone clowned on Priuses, and who's laughing now?
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
I feel like another part of this is that as a doctor, like you pretty much have to go into work. Like a lot of times, like you being there is what allows 5 other people to get a paycheck, right?
Yeah.
So it's like the Audi.
You can't have a car that's not starting in the morning. Like that thing's got to start, and you got to go.
The Audi could be your.
That's why Toyota is so favored.
Yeah, the Audi could be your wife's car or something, or your husband's car, or your non-medical professional car.
Yes.
Real talk though, I'm a definitely like, not that I'm going into emergency medicine or anything, but I love to bike to work. Like that's my bread and butter.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I need to get some better cold weather biking stuff so I can keep going year round, because I do like. Also, I just noticed this. Can you go back 1 second? I just noticed that Porsche and Acura and Hyundai and Nissan are all tied at 3%, which there's something about that that's very telling to me. Like that Porsche and Hyundai. I love my Hyundai. They're not status cars. So I love that that's
Porsche
tied.
Is, yeah.
Yeah, because listen, Porsche's kind of one of my dream cars. So like I probably wouldn't drive it that often, but it's like if I have the disposable income to have a fancy car, I want a Porsche.
I've said this on the show before recently. I just purchased a 2013 Audi convertible.
Ooh.
And I love that car. I love that car. I don't know why I love that car. It's just a car.
That's how I feel about all cars. I have never gotten into a vehicle and thought, this is what I want in life.
But it's there's something I'm trying to deconstruct my love for this vehicle. First of all, I'm not allowed to drive it every day. It sits in the garage because it has 141,000 miles on it. It's an expensive car to put gas in and to maintain. So I don't drive it to work.
I'll tell you what car I would get excited about though. If somebody actually figures out how to have a self-driving car and I can just do telemedicine visits on the way to the office, that's what I want.
Yeah.
I want to sit in the backseat of my own car. That's what I want.
I get where you're coming from though, Dave, because I'm like a very conflicted like car person, because on the one hand, I don't like using them for everyday transport. I prefer like biking or public transit type stuff. That said, I've already talked about I really like car racing. I also really like my Hyundai. So I'm like, I also do drive to a lot of rural places where it's like, I would bike, but I would like living. So
how much vacation do physicians take? 3 to 4 weeks per year is the most common. I think that seems
pretty
like
accurate.
Seems reasonable.
Yeah.
You imagine
Seems
taking
average.
more than 6 weeks of vacation a year. That's pretty cool.
I mean, do places offer that much? I feel like 3 or 4.
Well, I mean, people going into like private practice, you can kind of do whatever you want.
You can do whatever you want.
I guess that's true.
My father-in-law is an orthodontist, and he does what he wants to do.
Yeah.
Love that for him.
Yeah, I do too, because he takes me skiing.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Vacations.
Best slide.
How key are vacations to your happiness and mental health?
This feels like a very low, like very softball kind of slide. It's like, do you like vacation?
I actually don't feel like vacation is important to my happiness and mental health.
No?
Like, that's not who I am as a person.
Do you like breaks?
I thought about this very seriously.
Now, hang on a minute.
I thought about this very seriously yesterday.
Okay, wait a minute. Before you get into that, I just want to point out that you're like, I don't think vacations. I'm not a vacation kind of person. Like, almost like Dave. You're a vacation kind of person.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. Most people are very much vacation people. I'm not saying that most people are wrong. I'm just saying that, like, I've thought about this very seriously for my happiness. Like, for example, I like the big city. I love living in a big city. And I was trying to figure out why yesterday. It's not restaurants. I don't like to go out to eat that often. I just don't like to be around, like, loud while I'm eating. That's just not me, right?
Yeah.
I'm not really a shopping kind of guy. I don't really feel the need to go to, like, sports events or the theater or museums. Like, I enjoy these things, but like, I'm not,
you're not doing them all
blown
the time.
out of my mind to do them, right? Like, I'm not running from one to the next. I was trying to figure out, why the heck do I like big cities so much? And it's the anonymity. That's what I like about big cities. It's the same with vacation. I'm trying to figure out, like, I don't really enjoy vacation because I can rest at home.
You just said not 2 minutes ago that, like, I really like that my dad has free time because he takes me skiing.
Yeah, my father-in-law pays for skiing, and I do enjoy skiing. But
I see.
If I'm honest, and that's because that's what we do at Christmas time, right? We don't open presents; we go skiing for Christmas. But if I'm honest, if I never went skiing again, I could get by. I'd be fine. Like, I don't think that it's necessary for my happiness.
That is our last slide.
Well, not to ruin it.
I was going to say that's kind of a downer, because I also like, because you just said, like, I can rest at home. That also counts as a vacation. Like, traveling and vacations are not the same thing.
I think most people think of vacations as a doing.
I disagree.
Hence the need for the word staycation.
I disagree
there. We needed a whole other word because we felt like we wanted to mean something else.
Just taking time off work.
Yeah, like, I didn't go anywhere for Christmas this year. My family came here and we had Christmas. That was still a Christmas vacation because I didn't go to lab. I put all my experiments on hold. I spent time with I didn't put all of them on hold. I spent time with my family. I spent time with my pet. We went out and did, like, stuff that I wouldn't normally do. Like, that's a vacation. Just because we didn't go to Cancun doesn't mean it wasn't a vacation.
Yeah, Jeff.
My bad.
I didn't mean for that to sound so defensive. It's really hard to say Cancun without sounding Cancun.
It's a naturally defensive sounding word.
Yeah. So it's like, I would say that, like, vacation does not mean travel. Because honestly, traveling, like, I like traveling. It's freaking stressful, dude.
Yeah. See, I don't know about the vacation thing either, because like just taking the time off. Like, for example, you know what I did for spring break last year? For med school year 1, spring break, 10 days off. I signed up for an online course through Johns Hopkins on epidemiology because I was bored.
Yeah.
And I did that instead. I'm not really a time off kind of guy. It's not my personality.
That's fair.
So.
I think you might be in the 5% though.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine. You can be in the 5%. The rest of us are going to be...
Yeah, we're going to be on vacation.
Yeah, we're going to be on vacation.
I support it.
Well, that's our show. Jeff, Miranda, Dr. Konne, thanks for being a part of it.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
And what kind of ding-dong would I be if I didn't thank you, Short Coats, for making us part of your week? If you're new here and you like what you heard today, follow the show wherever fine podcasts are available, like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. The show is made possible by a generous donation by Carver College of Medicine student government and ongoing support from the Writing and Humanities program. Our music is by Dr. Vox and Catmosphere. I'm Dave Etler saying, don't let the bastards get you down. Talk to you in 1 week. Hi, Short Coats. Look, life in medical education, life in America, life in the world is often difficult. And I often wish I could help. All I have is this podcast, but in my wildest dreams, you have the support you need to lead a life of your choosing. You deserve to be happy, healthy, and successful in whatever ways you define those words. So if you need support because you've experienced racism, discrimination, harassment, mental health crises, I want you to be able to get the help that you need. And so I'm going to put some links in the show notes to some resources that you can use. But the bottom line is that for what it's worth, I see you. I know you're out there. I wish I could do more. Maybe I can in ways that I don't understand yet or know about. But I see you, and I'm glad you're here, and other people are too.
This Short Code podcast is a proud member of the MedEd Media Network. Inspiration, information, and guidance on your journey to medical school and beyond at mededmedia.com.